Hello, this is Javier, author of Crushing Cancer, available on Amazon. Now, those of you that have been following me or heard about me, I was diagnosed with stage 4 kidney cancer 4.5 years ago. Extensive metastasis. We're talking brain, thoracic, spine, lungs, kidneys, adrenals, pancreas, lymph nodes, and pelvis. Over 12 areas. And right now, it's about 40% gone. And that's been a combination of modern targeted therapies like the gamma knife, also cabozantinib and Opdivo that I take. One's angiogenesis inhibitor, and the other one's a checkpoint inhibitor, which is basically makes the cancer visible to my own immune system. And so I'm pretty fortunate to still be here. But if you want to keep up with me, please subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and now TikTok. And I post regularly to show you how I'm doing and what I've been doing, because it really truly is a miracle I'm alive today, given the pretty grim prognosis initially. But today, what I wanted to speak to is like, you know what? Do your own research also. I strongly encourage it. Like I've talked about before, it took me about 2 or more years to land on this protocol, to finally start getting some regression and no new growth and no growth. The last scans were pretty good. I mean, nothing new, minor regression, the tumor shrinking, which is pretty good. And overall, given my situation, I feel pretty good, from being bedridden for a while there to now being, semi-active. Yeah, I feel pretty fortunate. But the point that I wanted to do and get to today is, hey, you know what? It's easy for me to talk, right? I do have, a chemical engineering background, and I've done extensive reading. But I encourage you guys, if you're battling this, to actually go out and do some research. And what prompted me to put this video is when I post on Facebook, I get a lot of opinions, right? And that's cool. But, what is it based on? Is it kind of willy-nilly? I hear people when I say, hey, you know what, processed meats, they're not the best for you, and people are like, oh, the Atkins and so forth. I believe the Atkins been debunked. It actually shortens lifespan, especially when you start eating all these meats with all these chemicals, nitrates, and so forth, very heavy on the body. So that's why I encourage you to go out there and do your research. And like I did, right? One of the books that really opened up my eyes was this book, Cancer as a Metabolic Disease, by Dr. Thomas Seyfried. And what he talks about in the book, in a nutshell, is that it's not a genetic disease, but it's a metabolic. The microenvironment in the body changes because of all the way we eat. All these carbs and sugars, and you talk about our sedentary lifestyle. And so the mitochondria become inefficient. And instead of producing 36 ATPs, they only produce about 6 ATPs, which are little energy units that the body uses. And another thing about tumors, they have about 15 times the glucose receptors that normal cells have. So that should tell you something. So that's why I lean toward keto, organic, plant-based, cruciferous, right? So again, it's one of the books that I read, and I encourage you, like I did, go out there and read and listen to survivors and what they've done, right? Listen to survivors and what they've done. That's what I did. I mean, it took me a couple years to land on this. I don't have diabetes. My sugar is great, not only in the 80s. I also don't have any other, like, cholesterol, so forth. It's very good, right? My kidney function is normal, 4.5 years later with kidney cancer. So that's pretty phenomenal. But again, the whole point of this video is I did extensive research because I wanted to know, I wanted to learn, and I wanted to live. And I read up on and I saw videos of people that were beating this disease or had beat it, right? I haven't read of anybody or heard of anybody that has the extent of metastasis that I have beat it. But you know what? The way it's going, it might take a little bit, but I believe I'll get there. And of course, I'll share everything that I've done in the hopes that other people learn from it. But one of the other books that I wanted to talk about, again, this is written by a PhD and an MD, The China Study. It really talks about the importance of food, right? They go to an all plant-based food here. I had some wild caught fish and tuna. Try to go organic and clean fish, right? Not farm raised with all these antibiotics because I don't want to affect my gut biome. So again, do your research, listen to people that have actually studies on it, not just willy-nilly and Facebook or whatever social media experts, which I run into, and to me it's kind of entertaining, opinions versus my question is where they get this information. That's why I wanted to share this to you today. And again, the spin-off of the China Study is Fork Over Knives. It's the cookbook, the great foods you could eat. And again, I've dialed it in, right? Knowing what I know about the dysfunctional mitochondria and the insatiable appetite for sugar or glucose for cancer, I made mine keto, right? So, and again, the supplements that I take was done through extensive research. And I also, cross-checked them. This is a pretty big book. I mean, written by an MD, all these supplements and so forth, and they all have references and studies on here. And again, in my book, there's about 86 of them. So go out there, inform, get educated, and it might take a little trial and error, but I believe the key things that one has to do, big one, is food. Food, right? Big salads, cruciferous, plant-based salads, fasting, I think that's huge, right? I talked about after 16 hours, your body goes into autophagy. It's like, hey, I don't have anything coming in. So it looks around for damaged cells and recycles them. So I think that only happens after 16 hours. So I fast daily, 16 hours. It's more like 20 hours, to be honest with you, daily. And then also 2 days a week I do. And these are water fasts, 2 days a week. I fast also while administering my IV vitamin C, which is a must for me. And so those are things that I do. And also exercise, cardio, and I do that on a fast. I go out and try to walk a mile or two while I'm fasting. I think that's important. The way I view that is there's a section in my book I call 200,000 year time travel. When our species first appeared, it's not like we woke up and we're like, I'm hungry. Let me go in the fridge and see what's there. It wasn't like that, right? We can wholeheartedly agree. Woke up, we had to go out on the hunt, or hunter-gatherers, right? That's what we were called. And I believe we were more gatherers than hunters. We probably looked for fruits, berries, nuts, and so forth. So I am trying to mimic that as best as possible. And of course, those foods were as organic can be, right? There was no additives, preservatives, salts, or anything of that nature. They were just as natural as could be. So that's what I'm trying to mimic in my diet. And obviously, getting food was energy intensive. It's not like now, sit on the couch, get on your phone, you order something, 20, 30 minutes later it's at your door. Or you have to put in some work for it. And then again, you also have to deal with the inconsistency or the unreliability of food. We had to, as a species, move, travel, no fridges, we couldn't save, right? So that's why our bodies are designed the way that it is, with seasoned in mind. You look at sugar is a fat storage hormone. Well, sugar triggers insulin. Insulin causes us to store fat because of the seasons, right? In the summer when it was plentiful, we had all this, say, sugar, fruits, and berries and so forth, and maybe we ate something that had fat in it. Well, it was a seasonal thing, so the sugar would trigger it. The insulin release, insulin would cause us to store the fat because it was seasons. So now I look around, and this was me also, right? Like I've mentioned before, I lost about 100 pounds. Yeah, I used to eat a lot of junk food, a lot of carbs, and, associated, and then you have the sugars that I eat with fats, and yeah, I've lost 100 pounds, and now, amazing how 100 pounds, just diet and lifestyle changes. So it's important, food matters, and it just, I wanted to share with you those things. And of course, the cardio, got to put in the cardio, some type of cardio to hopefully reverse the inefficient mitochondria, right? My belief and hope is that epigenetics play a role, and we stress our body out to try to reverse that and become more efficient, right? And get rid of this inefficiency, and obviously, which I believe is cancer. Well, I appreciate you, and like I said, I encourage you to read, talk to people, listen to people, what they have done, and what resonates with you, and do a little research. But look at the reference. Look who's talking and where's the information coming from. Is it based on some science, or is it just hypothetical willy-nilly stuff? So I encourage you to go out and do that, and talk to people that have survived and how, right? If it's just modern meds alone, that's what you want to do. Hey, that's up to you. But I strongly suggest you think of how you got to where you're at, right? Was it lifestyle related? And in my case, I believe it was. So, best wishes. Please do subscribe to this, and I appreciate you. Take care.